Today on NewsWatch, message not received. President Obama's attempt to push gay rights in Kenya didn't sit well with leaders. We'll break down what happened and what's ahead for the rest of his Africa trip.
I love going to the jail. That's where I really feel God's pleasure.
A chaplain who would rather work in jail than in church. See how his approach is changing the lives of hardened criminals. And they call themselves K-Crew. And they're changing the lives of young people in Africa with music and dance. We're going to show you how. Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Obama is in Ethiopia today as he continues his tour of Africa. In Kenya, the president's push for gay rights was not well received. Dale Hurd has the story.
Today, President Obama held talks with Ethiopia's leaders on counterterrorism, human rights, and regional security. He's the first sitting American president to visit the East African nation. Obama wrapped up a two-day trip to Kenya Sunday, urging the homeland of his father to root out corruption, treat women and minorities as equals, and to protect the rights of homosexuals.
I've been consistent all across Africa on this. I believe in the principle of treating people equally under the law, and that they are deserving of equal protection under the law, and that the state should not discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation.
But in a tense exchange, Kenya's president rejected Obama's message on gay rights, saying it was one value Christian Kenya does not share with the United States.
The fact of the matter is that Kenya and the United States, we share so many values. But there are some things that we must admit we don't share. Our culture, our societies don't accept. This is why I repeatedly say that for Kenyans today, the issue of gay rights is really a non-issue. We want to focus on other areas that are day-to-day living for our people.
In Kenya, homosexual relations carries a punishment of imprisonment. In this overwhelmingly Christian nation, many residents shrugged off the U.S. president's lecture on gay rights.
Of course, the way President Obama talked about gayism and what have you, lesbianism or transgender, whatever, according to him, we took him as an American. He was answering like an American. He was for. But according to our African culture, the Christian beliefs, we say no.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee is not backing down, accusing President Obama of pushing the Jewish state toward another Holocaust. This weekend, Huckabee said the Obama administration's nuclear deal with Iran is, quote, marching the Israelis to the door of the oven. Leading Democrats are blasting Huckabee for the comment, but the former Arkansas governor says the president is naive to trust the Iranians. The Islamic regime in Tehran has publicly vowed to wipe Israel off the map. Huckabee is calling on Congress to reject the Iranian nuclear deal. A group unveiled a bronze statue in Detroit this weekend paying tribute to Satan. The goat-headed figure stands more than 8 feet tall. The Satanic temple had plans for a private event, but the restaurant owner canceled reservations after learning of what was planned. The statue was meant for the state capitol in Oklahoma City until its Supreme Court banned a monument of the Ten Commandments. The Satanic temple says it supports separation of church and state. It now wants to erect the figure outside the State House in Arkansas, where a Ten Commandments monument is planned. Planned Parenthood is firing back at the pro-life group that released videos showing its officials discussing prices for fetal body parts. On ABC's This Week, Cecile Richards, president of the nation's largest abortion provider, said the videos are highly edited and part of a campaign to defund Planned Parenthood. Richards also said her organization has done nothing illegal and should be commended for providing fetal body parts for research.
This is actually laudable that women and their families choose to make fetal tissue donations in order to potentially save lives of other folks.
But some question whether women who donate the fetal tissue are fully aware of the implications of that decision. Dr. Alveda King had 2 abortions before repenting and becoming a pro-life activist. She told CBN News abortion clinics don't give women all the information they need.
And it's so rushed. There's no time to consider that decision. Nobody's going to tell you that your baby's going to feel pain while we're not going to show you this ultrasound, but we're going to use the ultrasound to make sure that we don't tear up the liver or the heart. You know, so if this is a blob of tissue, a lump of flesh, where did it get? Ooh, where did the baby get? A heart, a liver, a kidney. These are babies.
You can see that full interview with Dr. King at our website, cbnnews.com. A federal appeals court has ruled that pharmacists in Washington state have to provide abortion-inducing drugs, even if it violates their religious beliefs. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the state's controversial pharmacy regulations, ruling against 2 individual pharmacists and 1 family-owned pharmacy. They've been referring patients to 30 nearby pharmacies for those drugs. The state allows pharmacies to refer patients elsewhere for economic or for safety reasons, but makes it illegal to refer patients for reasons of conscience. An attorney for the Alliance Defending Freedom said, quote, "No one should be forced to choose between their religious convictions and their family businesses and livelihoods, particularly when the state allows referrals for just about any other reason." A group of Colorado nuns is asking the Supreme Court to overturn a contraception mandate ruling. The ruling says the contraception mandate accommodates religious nonprofits by letting them seek an exemption. Their employees can get contraception from a third party. But attorneys for the Little Sisters of the Poor and 4 Oklahoma Christian colleges say arranging for someone else to provide contraceptives amounts to a permission slip. An attorney representing the nuns says they consider it immoral to help the government distribute these drugs. A victory for religious freedom in Texas. The state Supreme Court says Houston voters will have the opportunity to vote on a controversial gay rights ordinance. The city council passed the measure last year at the urging of Houston's gay mayor. Pastors and other opponents gathered some 18,000 signatures needed to put the ordinance on the ballot. The city council said many of the signatures were invalid, and when the pastors sued, the mayor tried to subpoena their sermons. Now the court says the ordinance must be repealed or put to a vote. Texas Governor Greg Abbott praised the ruling, saying freedom of expression can only exist once government removes itself from stifling free speech, repressing religious liberty, and interfering with the lives of citizens. Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner has signed a new law making his state the first to divest public pension funds from businesses involved in the anti-Israel BDS movement. BDS stands for Boycott, Sanctions, Divestment, and it aims to increase economic and political pressure on Israel to force it into making concessions to the Palestinians. Rauner said, "We need to stand up to anti-Semitism whenever and wherever we see it." And he added, "I hope other states move quickly to follow our lead." A small number of Cubans are becoming private business owners under a recent change of government rules. Within the limits set by the communist government, a few Cubans, like photographer Eduardo Perez, have done quite well. In Perez's case, however, it goes far beyond making a profit.
Eduardo Perez stepped out into the unknown when he got permission to start his own business in Havana 5 years ago. His love for photography led to professional success. Today, Edo Studio is not only financially successful, it also allows Perez to support a cause that's close to his heart.
Este negocio siempre fue, de verdad te lo digo, es una herramienta que Dios nos ha dado para.
This business has always been a tool God gave us to talk about Him. Whether it's photos for clients or a personal work, we always want to highlight the beauty of God through photography. That's what we're called to do.
Eso es a lo que fuimos llamados.
From the beginning, we were very clear that they should be a business that serves others, not just a means for financial gain. As we've gotten better, we have done well financially. That has helped us support other ministries.
We began with nothing, then we expanded our photography to other goals, like social work that we've done in communities, in schools.
Edo Studio became known for unique crowd shots of the Christian community, one of the fastest growing groups in Cuba, yet virtually ignored by Cuban media. The Perez have documented public activities of the church and even managed to display those pictures in secular exhibitions, a major accomplishment in Cuba.
We are trying to capture highly attended church activities on a national level and create a photo report so that it's documented. We want the people in the eastern and central parts of the country to know what's being done in Havana and vice versa. Every chance I get, I show other believers that we're more than they think, that more things are being done than we think, that God is opening more doors than any of us realize.
Edo Studios, a Christian business that's making a difference in Cuba. Stan Jeter, CBN News.
Coming up, gang violence is spreading in places where you least expect it. Stay tuned to meet a man who's changing the gang subculture, one life at a time. Gang violence is on the rise here in America, and it's spreading from the inner cities to the suburbs and even to smaller towns. Even though the rise in gang activity does sound alarming, some people in the state of Washington see it as an opportunity to reach out to these gang members with a life-changing message. Caitlin Burke has that story for us today.
I love going to the jail. Like, that's where I really feel God's pleasure. They were onto what Jesus was doing very quickly, and I just liked them. They were just like my best theological conversation partners. They'd never provide churchy, dumb answers, and their language is full of profanity, but very honest.
Chris Hoke has served as a jail chaplain for 10 years, finding an authenticity here that eluded him in church.
I was soaked in biblical language growing up. I was a worship leader, but I wanted Jesus. I wanted to find Jesus and touch Jesus, and not just sing songs about it.
And Chris found what he was looking for with some of the most hardened criminals, gang members. Looking at the beautiful Skagit Valley, it's hard to imagine gang activity here.
Gangs can happen in any community, anywhere. In the early 90s, we saw our types of crimes changing. We saw them straying away from, say, property crimes to more violent crimes like assaults, drive-by shootings, and things like that.
Skagit County is on the I-5 corridor, running from Mexico to Canada.
Some individuals are trying to, leave the gang lifestyle, so they come here. Some are branching out to do their criminal activities in areas that they're not known for.
And migrant workers coming here for seasonal work often stay. Their children can have a hard time fitting in.
There's a lot of racism going on. Like, the kids used to make fun of me, and so I think that's kind of pushed me to the, like, yo, I don't want to mess with these guys. These are not the people that I want to be around, and I start hanging out with other crowds.
Jose Garcia says he was just 8 years old when he started hanging out with members of one of the most violent gangs on the West Coast. They called him Nieners, a slang word for baby. Nieners was swept up by the gang lifestyle. He committed dozens of crimes, spending 20 of the next 25 years behind bars.
Didn't have no feeling. I just didn't care. Like, get back out, I'd be right back to doing the same thing. And everybody's like, man, that boy's heartless,
Introducing gang members to Jesus may seem like a daunting task, but these lost sheep are uniquely equipped to hear the voice of their shepherd.
They understand Jesus' mode of operation, that Jesus had kind of like this grassroots posse on the margins of Galilee, and he called people to follow him. Gangs excel at gathering the marginalized and the lonely. They knew how to find the lonely and the broken lives, men and women in this valley. And so they brought me to them.
Did you ever feel intimidated by these gang members?
No, I just love these guys. It just felt like a love adventure. Like, we'd pray, these guys would pour out their hearts, and this is the kind of friendship I'd always been looking for.
Chris and Nieners grew close, exchanging hundreds of letters when Nieners was incarcerated. He wrote of reaching out to the Lord from the depths of solitary confinement.
Just like, yo, you're messed up. Why you do this to me? Like, all these things. And I didn't know as I was doing that, I was building a friendship with him. He was actually seeing the real me, my inner heart, instead of this tough macho guy that everybody else sees as, oh, this guy's the gang leader, or this guy's this. Nah, he's seen something deeper. He's seen the kid that was just yearning for his love,
When his heart started to change and our relationship started going deeper and he started having more hope, he said, I want to meet my little girl. Can you help her come visit me?
After months of red tape, Chris drove 5-year-old Adelita 4 hours to meet her father. That kindness and self-sacrifice proved to be a breakthrough for Nieners. He says he cried for the first time in 15 years. As Chris writes in his book, Wanted, it wasn't misery that made Nieners crack and tear, but mercy, And it's God's kindness, St. Paul wrote in a prison letter, that leads you to repentance. 3 years later, Nieners walked out of prison for what he hopes will be the last time.
That's you?
He's engaged to be married, helping raise 2 daughters.
I've never been there for these girls who really need me, and I never had a father, so I'm gonna be something that I've always wanted, you know? I always thought I'd be a gangster my whole life, you know, active, out here gangbanging or locked up. I never thought I'd be this good.
Gang activity in the Skagit Valley has decreased in recent years, well below the national average. Police attribute the drop to collaboration with the community. They're especially encouraged when someone like Nieners turns his life around.
I think when you have somebody that is at a leadership or seen in the hierarchy of a gang as being towards the top, making a choice to leave, I think that sends a very big message within the gang subculture.
I mean, to have someone try to believe in God is kind of hard, but to believe in someone that, like, yo, this dude's doing it, and, you know, hey, we want what he's got. So I'm trying to give a little hope with my life.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Mount Vernon, Washington.
Children of Africa's slums to sing and dance their way to a better life. The story's next. A music phenomenon is sweeping airwaves, clubs, and schools in Africa. They call themselves K-Crew. CBN reporter Angela Zatopek traveled to Kenya to see the hype and to bring us this look at a unique music ministry for Christ.
They may just look like a bunch of kids dancing and singing around the city streets of Kenya, or you might even spot them throughout the slums of Africa. But Kumbamba, or better known as K-Crew, is a group of dancers and DJs sweeping the youth by using music for ministry.
Energetic, spiritual, and uplifting. This is just a brief description of what fans experience when they see K-Crew in action.
K-Crew is a youth ministry that seeks to evangelize young people using urban gospel music and biblically based convictions.
And they've done just that, reaching more and more since Coca-Cola Kenya began sponsoring their jam-packed performances. People don't stay in their seats for long as they worship with their dancing shoes on.
My name is Thomas Noel. I was in the secular industry and I was one of the professional dancers and one of the most famous dancers in Kenya. Dancing is the ultimate fun expression. If there's a wedding, there's dancing. Even if a president comes to Africa, we have to dance for them. So we have to use dancing as a tool of medium.
With music and dance as their tool of influence, K-Crew is creating a new formula for outreach.
Kenya has become such a fusion of sounds. We're fusing a lot of our local sounds like Lingala and Kapuka and Zouk.
In order for us to reach the kingdom, we realized that we need to hit this massive population.
Part of their outreach includes a weekly 7-hour television program that reaches over 1 million viewers.
As promised, we have an amazing guest.
With many of the DJs raised in Africa's slums, they often return home to perform. Dandora slum is home to more than 1 million people. K-Crew brings a message of hope using hip-hop as a positive community force.
I'm thinking by the time we close at 6 o'clock, there might be like 1,000 people here.
They also take their ministry to the schools, beginning with dance and ending with the word of the day.
So self-esteem drives peer pressure in them, and for us, those are the challenges we're trying to fight.
Tafadhali change my life. Utasoma bila Yesu, lakini utasurvive. Unado drug. Miki la bangi nimevuta najua hadi bangi za Malawi najua kwenye Yesu amenitoa walai.
There's been attack in Kenya but we are courageously moving forward.
Reflecting on recent attacks by a radical Islamic group in Kenya, DJ Mickey was inspired to create a song about the victims called Fallen Heroes. K-Crew is currently expanding to acquire their own radio station, supported by their U.S. partners, Reach Youth Global.
With gospel music currently being the #1 form of entertainment in Kenya, K-Crew is keeping their message traditional, but presenting it in an unconventional way. I'm Angela Zatopek, CBN News, Kenya.
Operation Blessing is helping bring relief in the midst of a humanitarian crisis along the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Hundreds of undocumented Haitians living in the Dominican Republic are being rounded up for deportation. The Dominican military drops them off on the Haitian side of the border without any provisions, leaving them stranded without food or water. Operation Blessing is providing water and food deliveries to Good Samaritan families who have welcomed deported refugees into their homes. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to its website. It's ob.org. And finally this hour, we like to leave you with a little motivation for your Monday, especially if right now you find yourself facing some difficult and trying circumstances. Remember this, the tests God allows often contradict His promises. So hold on and be patient, because His promises will always prevail. Allow your faith to work patience and perform that perfect work. This indeed is going to be a marvelous Monday. And that is going to do it for CBN NewsWatch right now. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And take the time to tell us about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again right here next time. Once again, make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.